Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to Monster Taming and Chill, the podcast where we interview various monster taming game developers. Go figure. Anyways, today I'm pleased to have back the Mythren developers for the second time, and this is to coincide with the Kickstarter launch, which, if you're watching this at the time of release, is currently live. This time around, we have Monster Taming podcast veterans, Zane and John, joining us, and a spicy newcomer, Drake. Say hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
I'll leave links to the Mythren Twitter, YouTube, and Kickstarter campaign in the description so you guys could check it out. So, since this is a second interview, we'll be focusing less on general aspects of the game and more on some of the nitty-gritty stuff and other subjects surrounding the Kickstarter itself. But if you don't know what Mythren is, we will be sort of briefly going over the basics so you don't get lost. I'll link the podcast we had with John and Zane before in the description as well for your convenience. Anyways, every dev, how are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
All right.
Yeah, I'm already kind of salty. I just noticed the Auburn plushie in the background of Zane's plushes over there, and I also noticed something special on top of it. We got another one.
Got a free hat. Yeah, it's a little barely boy.
So cute.
I love it.
I love how, like, round his tail is.
So bulbous.
It's also the mushrooms are so soft. It's great.
I'm gonna have to make some Ed plushies one day.
One day.
One day.
I'll be first backer.
Soon, TM. Why don't you guys take turns telling us about yourselves and your role in the development of Mythren?
Cool. So I don't think we decided an order talks first.
No,
and since I started
free for all.
Cool. Since I started talking, I'm gonna go first. So I'm John. I'm the project lead of Mythren. I do a ton of different things involving the game. Some programming, some animation, some rigging, game design, a lot of stuff. And yeah, I get to oversee all of the wonderful people on my team, including these two people. I hope are on the correct sides of my camera.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. I tried.
All right. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm Zane. I am the lead character, 3D character artist. I also tackle a bunch of other tasks on the project. Some of which are like community management, social media, level design, and some game design that's not related to the combat.
And I am Drake. I do concept art stuff, promotional art, and combat design. My list is much shorter, but I promise I'm doing my best.
You're doing great.
Okay. So what? I don't know why I found that so funny. So could you guys give us a basic rundown of what Mythren is and what it hopes to achieve? Sort of what the gameplay loop entails, that sort of stuff. Give us a basic rundown of the game.
Yeah, so Mythren is a social sim RPG where you live each day deciding how you want to raise your Mythren and grow as a trainer. So you can train with your Mythren, you can focus on growing your bonds through different social activities. You can visit these exploration islands called the Wild Isles where you can gather resources, increase your levels, and etc. And it strives to be a unique to the genre, fast-paced combat action RPG with a unique narrative that focuses on characters named either Kaya or Kai as they explore their cultural identity on the island of Morai, which is where Mythren takes place.
Cool. Anyone else got anything to add to that? I think you did a pretty good job.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
He's got it covered.
Nice. Okay, so for each of you, what made you decide to come together and create this game?
I'll let you two go first since, it's my game idea.
I'll let Drake go first since he's the new new person
Spicy.
on the podcast.
Well, John actually approached me about this quite a while ago, and I've known about the project for quite a few years. He's always kind of wanted to make this. At the time, it was not called Mythren. It was called Darkrin. But yeah, he's always wanted to make it, and I'm just like, if you ever want to actually make this thing real, I will have your back to do art or whatever you need me for. So kind of fell into the fold that way.
Nice. I've kind of gone over why, like, how I got into like working on this project in the previous podcast. So I'll go more into why I keep on working on it. And for me, the thing that keeps me like waking up and then working on the project every day is I just really like the concept that we have. The socialization aspect with your creatures and just putting the importance on bonding is really important to me. And I just working with animals and to any degree is always fun. So we get to see a lot of funny and interesting things about animals just by working on this project. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm the project lead. I had this game idea since I was in the 8th grade. Always loved monster taming games. It was not always this exact game, but I always knew I wanted to do something along the lines of a monster taming game, and I just continued having the idea until one day I decided, let's make it happen, and we got started.
Nice. So we're gonna move over to the sort of main questions, the meat, if you will. Now that we got sort of the basic rundown out of the way, why don't you give us a idea about what the Kickstarter, sort of where the Kickstarter goal came from, and how you came up with the figures, and sort of what you want to do with the money.
Yeah. So for our Kickstarter goal is kind of based on our estimates for hiring freelancers, for outsourcing things like social media and marketing, and like also hiring other freelancers for various art assets. Mainly for our example environments, because we have the whole characters thing kind of down on lock. And this would help reduce like how many tasks, to say, for example, I would be doing, because then I'm not, because I kind of get into some environment art stuff as well, but not as much. But like having to not do that is nice, and that's what these funds would help us do, along with helping us get to a point where we can approach a publisher and have like hard numbers that say, hey, people want this game. We obviously have a team, people who can make it. Can you give us the funds to make this full game?
Anyone else to add anything, or?
No, Zane's pretty much our Kickstarter guru, and yeah, he's been handling a lot of the development of it. It's a lot of work.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So there's another question regarding the Kickstarter. The stretch goals for the campaign. Can you explain just some of the stretch goals you guys have in mind, and why they were chosen as they were?
Yeah. So for the stretch goals, like how we go about choosing them, it's kind of like the features that we want to put into the game, but like if we were to, it'd like bloat up like our like development time and costs. So it's just, without that extra funding, they're not reasonable to go and pursue. And so with that, the things that like I think at launch, the three things that should be there is going to be I have it written down. Seasons. So the game takes place on a calendar system.
Yeah.
And so each season would be represented, where currently it's just forever summer. So then character customization, like bringing in different clothing options and stuff,
Yeah.
which would be fun for me because I like clothes, so being able to model a bunch of clothes would be really fun for like our male and female protagonists. And then the third one that should be like the last of the first three is going to be 2 guest character slots. It I'm sure you might have questions about in general.
Uh,
And then,
sorry,
oh.
you cut out there for a second.
oh, I did. Oh, my bad. What was the last thing I said?
Questions about guest characters.
Oh, yeah. So I just said you might have questions regarding guest characters, and then also there might be like examples for like stuff past those initial 3 might be like additional Mythren lines.
Okay.
I know, in particular for our game, we can't like offer a bunch of new Mythren.
Yeah.
Because characters take forever to develop for our game due to the real-time combat and then the story aspect behind them.
Yeah.
So it'd be like 2 tiers or maybe like 1 tier for a single Mythren line.
Okay.
And that includes a Mythren, like base Mythren, like Raccoon, and then its evolutions.
Okay.
So yeah.
So we will get to guest characters in a bit, but for now, backer rewards. They're considered by many to be very important for running any campaign. Can you discuss here? I guess everyone can get in on this if everyone has an opinion. What are your what are the best backer rewards in each of your opinion that are currently in place on the Kickstarter, and why were they sort of chosen?
Well, I think the obvious one is this guy right here. The plushie one's I think pretty important just because people like plushies. So and I like plushies. I'm super excited to have that just sitting there behind me while I work. So yeah, I think that's personally what I think is like one of the bigger like important things to have.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I always love the plushies. So it would either be the plushies for me or the tier where you get to design recolors for, or sorry, not you get to design, you get to receive recolors of your Mythren that are recolored like Darkrin, because Darkrin have their own cool aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I would 100% back that tier so I can have my Raccoon that has like a Darkrin aesthetic. Really cool.
Yeah.
Also my favorite. I really love the Darkrin like sort of chroma that you can get for Mythren. Really interesting and unique.
Yeah, and those in that particular tier, just in case anyone hasn't looked over the Kickstarter page, is you get access to it early. I'm not exactly sure what type of thing I'm putting it behind because the way that chromas unlock is through like achievements in the game, which I'll likely get into later. But each Mythren line will have a Darkrin chroma that you can unlock for them. So this will grant you early access to the starters, Darkrin chromas.
Oh, but I did forget about one tier, which is an exclusive Bearleet skin. That's a very unique skin that will have a level of detail that other Mythren chromas will not. So once we end up showing that off, whenever we do, yeah, it looks really cool, and I would probably back for that one too.
Definitely excited to see it when it comes out. Okay, so this is a little less off the Kickstarter and a little more just about the game. What can you guys tell us about the game's story, lore, just sort of like why you're doing what you're doing, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, so I'm going to try and do this as spoiler-free as possible. But Mythren takes, at least in this current game, is going to take place mainly on the set of islands. That's kind of like a cultural hub. And specifically, it's going to take place on the island of Morai. And the game's going to do a lot of exploration about cultural identity. since I grew up in a family where I had my dad was an immigrant from one culture, and then my mom just came from America. There was kind of like a culture clash between them, and that influenced the kind of story that I wanted to put into Mythren. So you're going to get to experience that through Kai and Kai's adventure of kind of a dual cultural identity and how that impacts their lives and how they learn to accept their cultural identity and figure out what it means to them.
Wow, that's it sounds like there's going to be a lot of symbolism in the game.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, cool. So okay, so this is pretty interesting. I found these things fascinating when I first found out about them. The Darken. Who are again? You guys don't have to spoil anything, but from what you can say, who are these Darken, and how will they be intertwined into the story and combat? Oh, and for those who might be watching this as their first podcast, explain what the Darken are.
Yeah, so Darkran are mysterious creatures that arrived on the planet that Mythren takes place on a long time ago. People aren't quite sure where they came from, but they are actually the catalyst for how Mythren and humans started creating pacts with each other. It was the appearance of Darkran that caused that to happen. And the way that they impact the gameplay specifically is Darkran battles are kind of more larger waves of enemies battles. So you might just fight like one Darkran, you might fight 3. There's a possibility you could end up fighting like 6. And it's kind of a different combat style compared to a Mythren team versus Mythren team battle. We also have plans for Darkran bosses that'll behave a little bit differently than the regular Darkran that you fight on the overworld.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a unique combat experience compared to the 1v1 or 3v3 Mythren battles.
Yeah, and it's kind of our solution to wild battles, because in our game, Mythren aren't like a common creature that you'll like run across like it is in Pokemon, for example.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when in the early stages of the game, when it was mentioned that the Mythren weren't that common like they were in Pokemon. I was kind of wondering how that would work. So, makes a lot of sense. So this is going to be a great question for Drake. How will the combat function? How long will battles generally last? And what games are directly inspired? What games directly inspired the combat system?
Well, so the combat's going to be around like 5 minutes for like a 3v3 Mythren battle. And for anything other than that, like one-on-one Mythren battles that might occur, or Darkran battles that you might get into in the overworld, that's probably going to take a little bit less time, but generally around like no more than 5 minutes. And in terms of the combat, it's going to be like a 3-button sort of setup. We're going to have our lights, our heavies, and then our specials.
Yeah.
And all those will be able to chain into each other, starting with like lights and then heavies and then specials, like a Magic series sort of.
Yeah.
And then we have like 3 unique skills that each Mythren will have, but you can swap them in and out for different moves that you might pick up as you go through the game. And there is going to be less unique abilities that are specific to the type of Mythren. So there's like a move pool that they can pull from that you can choose to slot in for one of your 3 skills. So other than that, you're going to be mostly swapping in and out between your Mythren and your team to craft your own unique combos and all sorts of fun junk like that.
Cool. And any particular inspirations for the combat system?
Yeah, so for the most part, our combat is inspired from Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, like that series, and then a game called Lost Saga, which is an arena brawler MMO.
Okay.
And played a lot of that back in the day. It's very focused on its hero character inspired like combos and skills that you can switch in and out uh, on a dime. So you'd switch between your characters to string different moves together and string different combos. And it was very player influenced on how they would be built
Okay.
because every player is a little different. So
Okay, cool. On a side note, I can see the Naruto poster. I don't have a huge view of it, but I definitely can see it. Is that from the game?
that is from one of the games, I believe.
Yeah, because it looks like a 3D model. It's hard for me to see on here, but yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, really cool. Okay, so sorry, I was just fanboying there for a second. Oh, there's Naruto in the background. Are there any plans for co-op and or PvP, and explain what they are, if any?
Well, we currently don't have any big plans for co-op content, but we do currently have local PvP implemented, and we're hoping to have an online PvP implemented in the future. So that's pretty much gonna happen at some point. We just haven't figured that out yet. So
Okay, cool. Do you have any sort of like hopes for the online PvP in terms of like different battle modes and stuff like that, or is it going to be like standard battles or ranked or?
well, I do think that different battle modes would be really interesting. I am really hoping that in the future we can build a competitive scene, or like you said, possibly a ranked or a tournament mode would be really interesting. But like tournaments for the game would be really cool, and
Yeah.
Just getting the community as involved as possible.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That's in
I'll definitely
one of my.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say that's in one of my like high tier ideal goals, because in the game of Mythren, every month there are various tournaments that you can take place in as part of the game. So it being part of a line just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's one of the features that I definitely want to get in there.
That's sort of what came to mind was the in-game tournaments when I was thinking about something like that, and when Drake had mentioned it. What I was gonna say is I'll make sure to be there and lose in round 1.
Me too.
Yeah.
Umberto will come and hunt for us.
So what sort of customization options do you guys have planned for your Mythren in terms of like I don't necessarily mean like aesthetic. I mean more so like certain control over stats, held items, stuff like that.
Yeah, so held items is a thing that we're unsure as to exactly the direction we want to go on it, but there is a ton of customization in stats when you make a pact with your Mythren. You spend the game training up individual stats, but you get to choose the stats that you train. So if you want to make a tanky raccoon, that is totally your thing. If you want to make one that's really fast and it hits hard, you can do that too. And then also, when Drake was talking about combat earlier, he mentioned that there are swappable skills. And so you can choose the skills that your Mythren have. And so when you're working through swap combos where you like hit with a couple of Mythren skills and then you switch to a different Mythren, hit with those skills, you can build out an interesting team composition based on whatever kind of setup that you want to make.
Okay, really cool. So if you like max out the speed of your Mythren, can it just run around the field like ridiculously fast?
So no, because that's actually one of the things that, in terms of balancing, I want to avoid is just like if you make a Mythren that's super fast, the person can't catch them, then
ridiculous.
Yeah, what are they gonna do? So speed stat does affect your speed somewhat, but it can't get to insane levels.
Okay.
But speed affects other things besides just your movement speed. So you still get something else out of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, otherwise you just get just kite everyone.
Yeah. Fastest Mythren in the land. Never could touch him.
So a big part of Mythren is the game's bonding mechanics, and that's something that a lot of people have compared to sort of Monster Rancher, and Zane also mentioned Persona. Can you guys tell me a little bit about these mechanics and how integral they'll be to the game?
I'll
You
hop
want to
that
take
one
care
over
of
to
that,
you.
Dom? Oh,
Oh.
okay. I can take care of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I was talking about how our social system is very based on persona, and we're basically taking that framework and then modifying it so it works for Mythren. Because Mythren, there's a lot more characters you're socializing with, so it has to go faster, for example. Also, I talked about this on the last podcast. I gave it a listen. Evolution is and is typically tied to your bond with them. And instead of it being like, it's called social links in Persona 3 and 4, and then Persona 5 it's called confidants. So in our game they're called pacts, because you form a pact with a Mythren, and that's how you gain a new Mythren. You're not catching them like you do in other games. It's a mutual contract between the two characters. So you're raising that pact level, and like every so often you'll get a conversation between you and that Mythren. And this also does extend over to human characters as well. There'll be some human characters who also get a pact, and you get their own little story as well, like in Persona. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Can you to the other human characters, can you like piss them off to the point they become bad guys? Or not necessarily bad guys, but like enemies?
I don't think so. I know Persona has a mechanic where, thankfully they removed it in 5, but where if you like don't hang out with them enough, they'll like your social link will change into like a hold state, and if you don't tend to that long enough, it will break the social link forever. Which is like, that's an extra level of stress onto the entire like managing your time. So it would be very stressful if we were to do that, and we're not really wanting to stress out the player too much. When playing our game.
I don't understand some of these games. Like in Dark Souls, all I did was stab the guy and he got upset with me. Like, I don't get it.
It's crazy.
Weird.
When I get stabbed,
People
I'm just
these
like,
days.
oh, hey, thanks.
Hello to you too.
Can you guys tell me about the various areas within the game? So we did kind of touch on Morai and stuff like that, but more specifically, what you'll be doing. And so I gave a couple examples here, like the Wild Isles, Kochon, etc.
Yeah, I will explain that. So I have to like correct John a little bit. 'Cause, so basically, Mythren takes place in a region known as Morai. And this is an island country in the world, and it's one of the world's larger cultural hubs. The North Island of Morai is the inhabited portion of the region, and this is where you find most people, and the biggest city is Kochon. And in Kochon, it's we wanted it to be something you could explore fully, but like building something at the scale of the city that we want to show off would be really difficult to make you fully run around. So instead we're opting for like, you get little like sections of the city that you get to explore. And kind of in like, there'll be like certain streets or places or plazas that you get to go to and talk to, and there'll be like invisible barriers that say like, you want to go over here, and then I mean, it's basic game stuff. You probably know what I'm talking about. And then I think that's probably going to be the most restricted place in the game, but I feel like we'll still try to like add in little bits of exploration in there as well. But let me see. And then there's the South Island, which is the second largest landmass that makes up Morai, and that South Island is the Wild Isles. and yes, it is an S. So there is like some smaller islands as well. There's like I think south of the South Island, there's a tinier like split off island.
Okay.
That's where one of the zones is that you get to explore. But basically, the Wild Isles is a place that you can optionally go to when you have free time. And you have to make the choice to either spend your day doing training or stuff, or spend all of your day at the Wild Isle, and you can't do any training or any additional stuff. But there at the Wild Isle, you can level up your Mythren to get training points to then spend on training.
Okay.
Collect resources to upgrade like training equipment. And depending at like how funding goes, there could also be like a more robust like customization options for your home island, so you can make it more personal and stuff. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think also story elements will be tied into the Wild Isle, but I feel like we're not 100% sure quite yet. But yeah.
75% sure.
And then in between those two islands is the home islands, or the home island is one of these multiple smaller like scattered islands in between the two larger land masses. And on there is the home that you will set up in your like journey that where you suddenly become a Mythren tamer in the game, and you'll be living your days there as a tamer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these training points, if I train with when I kill or defeat the Darkrin, you obtain like an item called like a training point. Is that how that works?
So it's every time you level up, if I remember correctly, John. You will gain an X amount of training points. So like you'll level up, and then you'll get these training points, and then you can use those and allocate them however you want to into different stats. So back on the home island. Okay,
so just so everybody is clear, if I train with Gracoon, the training points go only towards Gracoon. I can't like use them for someone. Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no worries.
Mythren will. We did mention the Pact system a little bit. Can you explain it in a little more detail if you can?
Let me see if I wrote down an answer for this. Okay, I think this is.
He's giving away the trade
separate.
Secrets.
Yep.
Okay. So the Pact system. John, I think you would be good too, because I feel like I've talked quite a lot about it.
Yeah, sure. So the Pact system is basically like a measure of how strong you and your Mythren's bond is. For a second, I just thought my mic was muted. So when you create a pact with your Mythren, that puts you at rank 1, and you do different activities. So in some cases, battling with other Mythren trainers might raise that pact. In some cases, doing different social activities might raise it. And you use that to strengthen your bond with your Mythren. As you strengthen your bond, you might unlock new abilities. At a later level inside of your pact rank, you unlock the option to evolve. And then there's a higher, there's a different tiered evolution at close to max pact rank. But yeah, pacts basically function as a measure of the bond between you and your Mythren.
Okay, cool. And that sort of leads into the next sort of question about the evolution system. If I remember correctly, basically when a Mythren evolves, it evolves into essentially a different version of that same Mythren. So like you have Gracoon, and then I forget. I off the top of my head, I can't remember I remember what it looks like, but there's that form you guys revealed of Gracoon that's one of its evolutions. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Currently, we're just referring to it as Arcane Gracoon. Yes, we're still up in the air of whether or not they get their own unique, bespoke names. Yeah. But right now, it's just Arcane Gracoon. And so essentially, that first evolution unlock in the Pact, because like every time you upgrade your Pact, you'll get something in return for raising it. So sometimes it's like an ability that you can use on the overworld. Maybe they train better now, or they can now evolve. And I don't think we've fully set on like how you initiate evolution, but you'll unlock it at a certain pack rank, and then you'll get 2 options the first time, which is the type change evolutions or the elemental evolutions, and that will change the Mythren's type. Either they'll keep their like one type and then get a second type, or just completely change up their typing. And the way to think about these designs is they are more like subspecies, where they've like evolved differently to be more imbued with that different element.
Okay. So that actually, I actually have a question about that. So, let's just say I have my standard Gracoon, I have Arcane Gracoon, and I have like, I don't know, Apocalypse Gracoon. So would the evolved versions be inherently better or just inherently different?
I think we've discussed having all the base forms of the Mythren, like generally speaking, because balance is difficult. Those are all about at the same power level, and then the evolutions are like a step up.
Okay.
But theoretically, if you like the base Mythren enough and you're really like them, know how to use them, you could probably beat the step up. So.
Okay.
And then also another thing to mention, we haven't really talked about the Awakened evolution all too much, but that evolution retains the original typing completely.
Okay.
And it's kind of like our goals with that is kind of like it's that character fully developed, and that's why it's at the end of your pack rank, and it's like more unique and special, and there's an entire like 1 or 2 packed conversations locked behind that evolution. So it's this choice you have to make. Do I go down into these elemental evolutions and get an early evolution, or do I wait and get this the awakened form? Or that's how we refer to it, as this awakened form. But
okay.
And the other thing with the awakened form is if you really like the base form of a Mythren, the point of the awakened form is you can keep that same playstyle, same typing, but it's like the step up past the base form.
Okay.
So that way you can still like kind of have the same base form, but just add a stronger tier and with a unique mover to the awakened form.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like Ultra Instinct Goku before his hair turns white.
Yeah.
You can go Super Saiyan Blue, or you can go Ultra Instinct.
Yeah, exactly.
I think another good example to think of how to like look at the elemental evolutions, and I use this a lot when we're discussing how we're wanting to approach their designs, is like awakened evolutions. We haven't like fully nailed down what those look like. We have like a concept of it, but we're still working on like the exact look. Is that like elemental evolutions is Mega Charizard X.
Okay.
And then awakened forms are Mega Charizard Y.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. So the awakened forms are more like a natural progression of what the monster would look like if it went to the next stage, whereas the other elemental ones are more like if it had like you said, a different take on the monster.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Timeline is something, and I'm sure you guys have heard this question a million times. I can't count the amount of comments I have on every single video for every single game. Release date. What's your guys' timeline in terms of like alpha, beta, early access, release date, etc.?
Yeah, so
Release window, rather.
General timeline is that for alpha, it would be sometime in 2022. For beta, it would be the next year in 2023, and then release would be in 2024.
Okay.
I mean, keep in mind these are soft dates because like COVID is one thing
Yeah.
to take in mind. This game's like entire pre-development has happened through, or not entire, but like an entire year has happened through COVID,
Yeah.
and it's definitely had an effect, like with motivation for some people.
Yeah.
Especially since we're all working in our free time, so some more than others, but yeah. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, and also like these numbers are realistically hopeful, and like I'm
Yeah.
keeping it realistic, but also like, hey, this is when we aim to release.
Yeah.
But things happen. Game development's very unpredictable. So it's hard to say, yeah, it's going to come out in 3 years, but that's our goal.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest with you. After 2023, I don't know of any monster taming games that are planned for after that. So it's good that we're starting to see some, 2024 plus, because I'm kind of sitting here like, after 2022, there's only like 2 games.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's more realistic. So we talked about alpha, beta. Okay. Are there any platforms planned other than Steam? And if not, okay, actually, go ahead then.
I have a written out answer for this, so I have to be very careful with wording and stuff. So just mind me, I am reading off. So we would love to release Mythren on the Switch. I personally think it's like the perfect platform for our game. I mean, one's a monster taming game, and I generally think Nintendo platforms are really good for that.
Yeah.
Also, our local co-op nature local PvP nature, and it's like fighting game-esque roots.
Yeah.
Really does appeal to being able to take it somewhere, like say like Smash Brothers. It has that same, like, I'll take it there, play it, and have fun interactions.
Yeah.
So I've even seen that first person at a game developer event in Kansas City before COVID, did its thing to the world. So, but it was really cool to see that, because it's like seeing people interact with the game, even at that early state from like over a year ago now. It's something that we would like to do. But although I do need to stress, we can't confirm anything regarding Mythren coming to Switch. That being said, once that we can confirm we're able to get our hands on a dev kit and bring the game onto the platform, we will try our best to accommodate any backers who want a Switch copy, probably digital, and we can try to accommodate that post-launch, but we cannot promise that during the Kickstarter, just because game develop is complicated, and I don't want to say we will offer it for Switch when we don't even know if we'll get a dev kit. So yeah.
Okay. So did you say you guys got a dev kit for?
No, we do not.
Oh, do not. Kit. Okay. I thought
I was saying once we can confirm that.
Oh, okay. I got
we
you.
will work to be very accommodating to getting people to Switch, like if they want a Switch version, and given the game hasn't released yet, then we'll try to do our best to be accommodating to the backers who want that.
Okay, so Mythren on PS Vita confirmed.
Oh no, you wouldn't even be able to download it.
It is. Wasn't it like PSP 50,000? That we had
my god,
for?
yeah. Oh, yeah. So the early the Kickstarter trailer has existed in some format long before even the Ratapus trailer. And so at the very end of it, for my end card, I said like Mythren, and like fades in, and then it's like for PSP 5000. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the community questions. Anybody watching, if you're not in the Monster Taming Discord or the Mythren Discord for that matter, what's wrong with you? Join, and you can ask questions and be mentioned and stuff. Anyway, we're going to start with a Gray Creatures question, which has the game significantly changed since the last time you were on the podcast, or has it just been a steady progress?
So I will give a short thing, and I'll throw it at John. But I think I noticed that I rewatched the podcast earlier today, the first one, and I noticed that when we did that podcast, there was only 3 Mythren out, and now I don't know the exact number, but we have a fair amount out now, and there's I guess by the time this releases, Grimtail will be out, and that'll be our last pre-launch Kickstarter launch Mythren. So that's crazy to think that much art has been made.
Yeah.
We even have a second Mythren in the game now, which is really cool. One of my personal favorites, but he's also my child. So yeah.
Yeah, and besides the second Mythren, which is what I was going to talk about, how could
You could go further.
I mean, Radipus making the combat design and implementing a second Mythren into the combat system was something that we were like, once we get here, we're going to learn a lot about the combat system, which we did. So now we've been making some improvements to the combat system. But also, one of the biggest things is the development of Zone 1. I don't believe that was anywhere far.
Oh yeah, that was like
in the
a
first
very
podcast.
early state, I think. But yeah, since then it's definitely developed, and I mean, as far as visually goes, I mean, it's not like we have high standards for ourselves. So like we really want an environment artist so we can actually bring that to that level we want it to be at. But currently, I'm pretty happy with where it's gotten over since then. We've pushed it to be more unique in its like color palette, where beforehand it was green, like all of the other areas in the game. So yeah, and also just implementing these like bits of platforming into the game. Because I remember building the tutorial level for our vertical slice, and John had mentioned something. It's like, oh, this is very Spyro-y, and so now I've like doubling down and like doing a bunch of research just to make it have that nice little like touch of platforming. It's not the main thing, but to have that nice little extra touch.
Oh yeah. Every time you guys mention vertical slice, I'm not gonna lie, it makes me hungry.
I didn't notice it, but I got hungry after you said it. I was like, oh.
Marlon asks, and we sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, are you still open for crossovers with other Mon developers?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be having crossover character slots as stretch goals. So, and we've already been in talks with a few developers. I'm not 100% sure if I can say the one that would be teased, at least in the first, the first backer tier, but yeah. So like the idea is that these are slots, and if they don't get met, like if we can't fill them for whatever reason, we'll replace them with like a Mythren, like a new Mythren or something. So it's you're still getting that content. It's just not a guest character, if that happens to be the fate that we ride by 2024.
It's fine. I'll design all the guest characters. I'll have Stickman Dragon, Stickman Dog. We'll be good to go.
We've had an inside joke of like Mythren being the monster taming Smash Bros.
Yeah.
So
I
definitely open to it.
I think it's great because like the world that we've made just so happens to accommodate it really well.
Yeah.
That accommodate the crossover because we have portals.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oops, I slipped into this universe.
Yeah.
And we want to like make sure that these crossover characters do get represented, much like kind of how Smash Brothers gives them like the all-star treatment, is to like give these characters like the treatment they deserve, make them like their playstyle be reminiscent to their game, and then also have them be fully functional Mythren, air quotes.
Yeah,
they're not Mythren, but to the game they are.
Yeah.
The only caveat is like they would not be able to evolve, so it's just like we are picking, if they do have like an evolution line from their game, it's we're picking that, like one of them, and they don't have any evolutions like other Mythren, or Mythren according to the game's code. But they do still have all that. They do have like a bond, like a pact conversation, overworld abilities. They are treated like Mythren outside of evolution. So
Okay. On a side note, Monster Taming Smash Bros needs to happen one day.
True.
yeah, fun day.
I've been collecting game developers. You guys got to chat. You got to make this happen.
We are 100% down.
Yeah.
I guess we kind of touched on this gray creature. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Gray creature asked, "Did your first episode end up leading to any crossover opportunities?" Which
Trying to think, because I think any people because I think if I remember correctly, IL or Leo, I don't remember how to say his Discord username.
I think it's an LDD, but his name's Leo.
Yeah, LDD. Like we've like he's the one who had mentioned that. I know we've like had some slight talks with him, but that's for more of a smaller scale thing. So we don't think his creatures would fit as Mythren, but we do think they fit in other places. So
I think I know where this is going.
So and also like we want to do these smaller scale crossovers as well that don't require a full like balance. Like, like with Mythren, like making a Mythren air quotes, that requires balance, a bunch of animations, models. I mean, everything requires models, but it requires a lot of work, and like the rigs need to have a lot more attention to detail to say something random in the overworld, like an NPC would need. So
yeah. I could definitely imagine like certain crossover game or characters being enemies instead of necessarily catchable creatures.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, Leo's monsters look like demons, so you know.
Yeah.
Cirque. Oh, this is how you know this is a good podcast episode. We got Cirque. All right. What is Cirque a mod in your guys' Discord yet?
No, I think
he
currently it's just Charlatan and Barry, which I'm very thankful for them.
He will be, don't worry. What is the hardest part about developing Mythren? Do you learn any particularly important lessons during that journey of development?
I know we're all gonna have different answers.
Yeah, one by one.
Yeah, so I'll start with mine. The hardest part for me has been the amount of meetings that I'm in because I'm the project lead. So there's a lot of things that need to get confirmed with me, and somebody's like, "Is this canon?" And I'm just like, "Is it canon? Let's find out." And like comment design and all that stuff. So just being a project lead is like a whole thing that I had not experienced until Mythren. It's both challenging and really fun, but it depends on the day. So yeah, that's the one for me. And then what was the second part to his question?
Oh, did you learn any important lessons during your journey of development?
Oh, yes, a lot. Specifically about like making sure that things are clear between team members, because we are a small team, but everybody's kind of sometimes they can get into their own bubble. So for example, our narrative designer might be working on a bunch of stuff that let's say Zane working on an environment might not know about that he can incorporate. So making sure that people know what's going on and that things are communicated clearly has been one of the most important lessons I learned. Yeah.
I can definitely agree with coordinating can be difficult sometimes, because like as the concept artist, I have to coordinate with our narrative person to find out what's going on in the story that's going to impact what the game and what the characters are going to look like. So, and then we have to run that over to Zane, and he's just like, how doable is this? Like, can this happen? And he's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, like Kaya's a good example. I mean, first off, she's her protagonist, so I think from the get-go we were like very picky about everything about her design. It's like we went through so many design iterations, and then even after we like nailed down her design, there was still design iterations as I was modeling her, because it's like she had these creases on her shoes. I'm like, no, I'm not modeling that. Like, I will die if I have to do that. And then it's not even like just me. It's like Drake started doing like an art piece with Kaya, and then he realized the frill, like she had like frill on the like end of her skirt. He's like, no, I don't want to draw all this. I'm like, fine with me. I didn't mind modeling it because it was just like a one-time deal for me. But
it's every single
I don't
time.
have to do that because I hadn't gotten around to it yet. So it's like, cool. That's one less thing for me to do. But yeah, it's really nice to have that collaborative experience though, because it's always good to bounce off each other and also like keep each other in check.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
you
for
see
sure.
other people working super hard and you're just like, yeah, let me get in there, give it my all, you know?
Get all up in that.
Yeah, exactly.
So Michael asked two questions. The first one we actually already touched on about you guys. You guys are working on the game right now in your free time. The second question was, how do you stay motivated?
So I'll let them answer first because my answer is a little different. Because I am working in my free time, but I am working a lot.
Well, for me, I see this as a great opportunity to kind of show off what I can do as the art guy, because I've not really had too many big opportunities like this. So, and I've known John for a really long time, so it's not super hard for me to trust him and be like, yeah, here's some art for you. But I want to make sure that I'm improving as I go, and every single time I put out a piece, I want to be like, I'm gonna make that even better next time. So for me, it's just self-improvement, getting myself out there, and just see your teammates working so hard. You just want to keep working, keep chugging along, you know?
Yeah, for me, I don't work on the project full time, but I do work on it part time and in my free time. So I have multiple different contracts that I work on part time, and then I also work on Mythren part time. And then in my free time. And the way that I stay motivated is if I feel myself starting to get burnt out, I will just take a break. I am 100% a fan of if somebody is experiencing burnout, just like stop. If
Yeah.
we need to work around the schedule, we work it around. But yeah, I just think taking breaks when needed is very important. And that's why I haven't lost motivation. I don't think I ever will. Because I know to manage. I know when I'm reaching my limit, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna shut off for a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Taking a break's important. Creativity, create like when you're forcing yourself to put something out, you lose that level of creativity.
Yeah. So for me in particular, because of the Kickstarter and trying to make sure we're in the best position as I can humanly possible get us to be, I've definitely been putting in like full time, probably a little bit over that every week, like for the past month or so. Like kind of hard to gauge because I do commissions, so I'm kind of have this flexibility, and like my living situation allows me to not have to worry about paying rent and stuff. So yeah, so I kind of work a lot on this project, especially this past month. And I just really want to make sure this project is something that we can like have at the best place possible for when we go to this Kickstarter, so we can hopefully get the funding and be successful and make the thing that we really want to make.
Yeah, for sure.
While I would never recommend doing what I am doing, because I am essentially crunching, which is I don't think that's a good thing to be doing, especially to the degree I have to do right now. So I have a bunch of other out of Mythren stuff going on right now that is in my head work. Like I have to, like, I'm moving in this house, so I'm like moving a lot of furniture and organizing. So it's like, but I would say a good way, if you do have to be in this situation, so sometimes it just is the way it is. Sometimes you have to do it. I think it's always good to take small breaks, like finding ways to get out of the house. So like going on walks. I'll go on walks quite frequently. Also, I will try to, like, a good way to get small breaks is every time I eat, I watch something. So that's a forced 30-minute break at least, depending on what I'm watching. So, and also I know, like, when I wake up or before I go to bed, sometimes before I go to bed, I will play some games. I've been playing a game called Patapon 3 on the PSP.
Oh god, my wife loves Patapon.
It's so good. Oh my god. I keep on coming back to it all the time. It's great. But yeah, so I mean, was there anything else I had noted? Oh yeah, also hanging out with family and just talking to people, either online or physically, because COVID. So just not fully entrenching yourself. Like if I'm working, I try to be in like a Discord or something and talking to people.
Yeah.
Just to keep myself sane.
Yeah.
So I've been playing Patapon 3 and watching the Looney Tunes show during these breaks.
Definitely relatable. I personally, like, when I eat and stuff, I mean, it's partially because I have this is such bad ADHD, but I have to watch something when I eat. So, but I always try whenever I'm like not working on YouTube or whatever. I always try to like do something that's just completely separate. So like it's not like if I'm eating, I'll watch, like, I don't know, like Crime Watch Daily or like something completely random, like Reddit videos or so, just something that just gets my mind off it, so I'm not totally burnt out all the time.
Yeah, I think the other thing, I am in a good situation for this, is that at least me personally, switching between tasks keeps it fresh. So I have a bunch of things I have to do in any given week. So I'm switching modes constantly. I know for John, he can't do that, but for me, it's like that makes it less stressful somehow. It's just switching between the different tasks, like, resets my brain, and I'm able to tackle something different, and it doesn't like drain on me as much.
Okay, so Nazir asks, have any of you guys played any other monster taming games, whether it's a full release, early access, or a demo or whatever? And if so, have any of these games given you any ideas that you wanted to implement into Mythren?
So I have played other monster taming games. Like I played a bit of Monster Crown. I played a lot of Monster Sanctuary.
Oh, yeah.
But in terms of influence from other monster taming games, I haven't really taken anything. I've taken influence from games that aren't monster taming games. But yeah, I haven't been influenced by any recently. Yeah.
I know for me, I mean, I play monster taming games for fun. I can't remember what the last one was I played, but I mean, I know Sword and Shield's the easy one to point at. But I definitely, it's like I don't, like John, like I really don't really look at those all too much. Like obviously, the Sword and Shield, when they had the 2 DLCs, I was looking forward to those, like from a design perspective, because I was like, oh, how are they going to handle trainers in these open spaces? And then they didn't, and they just didn't have them. I was like, dang it. But oh well, I'll figure it out myself, I guess. But it's I don't know. I think it's always good to play those games, but like I more so take more inspiration from games that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Like
agree.
I think I mentioned on the last podcast, Nintendogs is a game I took some inspiration of just to see how their AI worked, just like make sure Mythren felt like creatures in your home island when they're just kind of chilling.
I suppose Nintendogs is actually technically part of the genre.
Yeah,
We have a discussion.
I mean, like it's definitely under that sort of umbrella.
yeah. And we were also discussing the other game that I've been taking inspiration for, like the home island design. Is Sonic Adventure.
Okay.
Not the main game, but the Chow Garden.
Okay.
So I've been looking at like, how do we turn this into something that you have to like literally look at a lot, and also make this like more fun. So this is essentially what the home island is. It's like a Chow Garden for your Mythren. So, but yeah, I think another game, for example, is Xenoblade 2. I'm a very big fan of that game in that series. So that game has had an odd amount of inspiration. Like I pull a lot from that when it comes to Mythren, interestingly, especially with like some of the overworld stuff that we have, like with Mythren having elemental abilities that you can activate that will affect like the environment. Not like a full-blown environmental interaction or anything, but it's like a small, like, we'll create a platform that you could use to get somewhere you couldn't get before. And Xenoblade 2 had a very similar system that I'm like taking a more simple approach because there's required a lot of characters to do sometimes. So yeah.
Were you gonna say something there, Drake? I saw you.
Yeah. Sorry. For me, I actually haven't played a monster catching game or monster taming or anything like that since Sword or Shield, I believe. But for inspiration, I play a lot of fighting games.
Okay.
So like a lot. But there's always like interesting things that you can pull from, since Mythren, the way the combat functions is so different from like like a traditional fighter or like a platform fighter like Smash Bros.
Yeah.
But there's really cool ideas that you can pull from that I've found are like really interesting and fun ways to like try to tackle it conceptually in this camera space, I guess, arena brawler style fighting. It's fun though.
Mortal Kombat fatalities confirmed.
Confirmed to never
Raccoon's
happen.
head off.
Oh God, poor Raccoon.
He's cracked, but he also attack.
No. It haunts me.
So Barry Bandit, our thick admin in my Discord, asks, and you said Barry's one of your mods, so there you go. He asked, with so many other monster taming games out there, why should some potential backers back your game specifically?
Yeah, so I saw that question. I was like, man, it's like a job interview. It's like, why should we choose you? But I do have my answer on deck. So Mythren is a bit different from the current monster taming games available due to its heavy focus on the characters and the world and the relationships between both your protagonist and your Mythren, but also your protagonist and other characters in the world. And we focus on a smaller roster of monsters so we can create an engaging bond between both you as the player and your Mythren.
Yeah.
And in Mythren, your monster's growth doesn't just focus on like you getting into a bunch of battles and they level up and that's it. It's really dependent on your bonds just as much as it's dependent on you battling. And the player themselves actually has social stats that you have to raise so they can become a better tamer. So it's like they're working on themselves as a person, and also working on becoming a better Mythren tamer in general. So yeah, there's just like a lot of focus on the characters themselves and the Mythren. In ways that I haven't seen from other monster taming games yet. I always see like bits and pieces in other. I'm trying to kind of like smash them all together.
This is a sort of question that kind of goes off of that a little bit. And this is sort of kind of Well, it's not off topic, but it's off topic with regards to the backers question. Regarding Mythren taming, so Mythren are 100% sentient, just like humans. They're kind of like Digimon, right? They speak the same way humans do. Is there a benefit for the Mythren to link up with a human? Because in Pokemon, for example, the Pokemon are kind of dumb, so they need a human to tell them what to do. Whereas in like Digimon, the Digidestin or whatever can unlock their potential. Is there something like that in Mythren as well?
Yeah, so with the caveat that it's possible that there are small lore changes as we move forward with the game. If you remember earlier, I mentioned that Darkrin showing up is what caused Mythren and humans to start creating pacts with each other.
Yeah.
It's because when a Mythren creates a pact with a human, they're actually stronger than just if they're alone.
Okay.
And that is the benefit.
Okay.
It's basically
Yeah.
they are stronger when they create pacts with humans.
I like that because there's there's actually a few monster taming games now that have sentient monsters, and it always kind of bugs me if there's not something like that, because it's like, well, if it's just as strong and just as smart as me, what does it need me for?
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
There
we've
has to
had
be some sort of
many-
mutual benefit, right? I benefit because I can't shoot grass out of my face, and he benefits because he gets stronger from like my from bonding with me, or like my energy or something like that. Like, I like that better.
Yeah, we've had many literal war stories where we're discussing like how would this operate in a war. I'm like, but is that really that big of a deal? Like, why haven't they started wars? And I'm like, but guys, you might be thinking about it too much.
Those details are super important to me because I want people to look at the world and like when they ask those kind of questions, we have the answers, you know.
Yeah.
And we do have some soft lore where it's like, you know, we're not going to go into it, but I also want to have answers to some major questions. So, yeah.
I've always been one of those people that looks far too into stuff. So like the second something seems odd to me, like, okay, an example is I love Dragon Ball, but there's so many things I can't stand about Super because it just doesn't make sense. And all my friends are like, just enjoy the show, just enjoy the fights. I'm like, no, the power scaling is not supposed to. I'm that guy, right? So...
I get it though. I really do. That show has some crazy stuff going
on. So the next question's from Jolly, and we also touched on this. Obtaining a Chroma, aka the game's shiny variant. It's not based on luck, as opposed to like games like Pokemon and stuff, which I personally really like. Can you guys talk a little bit about how you can get a Chroma Mythren? And does your Mythren turn Chroma, or do you get a separate Mythren that is Chroma?
So the way that chromas work, and this is subject to change, but Mythren isn't like, I know it's like we call it monster taming, but I also know that another name for the genre is monster catcher.
Yeah.
We do not really focus on catching at all. Like, ideally, you will maybe have one or two of the same creature in your journey, but like there's like an entire process to get a second Mythren of the same species. So an entire process we're not 100% sure on yet, but it's not easy, essentially. So yeah. So that's why we had to go away from the luck-based system. I mean, also, I like having cool recolors, but I also don't have enough time to sit through and grind luck. So
yeah, you could sit there for a week straight, and you're no closer than you were.
I could put in so much hard work and not see anything for it.
Exactly.
And that drives me a little nuts.
I like the progression aspect, even if it is.
And so, in our game, since it is like a fighting game, fighting games tend to have recolors for their characters and multiple. So we're going off that fact. And introducing, I know every Mythren will just come packed in with like, I think 5 different basic chromas, which are just like very easily made because I just do a hue shift on the texture and call it a day. But the other chromas, the ones that you unlock, are through achievements. And so it could be something like complete the game. That's a really easy example. But another one could be like defeat X Darkrin, or go to this place and like I don't know, open this particular like secluded chest or go to this hidden area. It could be a wealth of things. Like I mean, we haven't really like sat down and said these are the list of achievements that we want to put in the game, but obviously we're still in pre-development.
That's why. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, continue.
Oh, I was gonna say that's why it needs to be on PS4 so I can hunt all the trophies down.
I mean, it's on Steam. It'll be on Steam, so look at the achievements that way as well. And also be like an in-game achievement list, so you can like see, and it'll probably be through the chroma, however you equip chromas, which be something you equipped and list, and you'll probably have each one will probably have some form of name, and you can equip whichever chroma that you've unlocked.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. So, and I believe, and this would be the thing that would make the most sense in my head is that if you unlock a chroma for, say, your starter raccoon, if you get another raccoon later on, that raccoon will also have access to all those chroma mutations.
Okay, cool.
And so, yeah, it's kind of like we're trying to take what the core of the shiny system is, which is this cool way to get a recolor of a character. And have cool recolors, mostly cool. But kind of remove the tediousness out of it.
Yeah.
Like we want, because like I think the core of it is that you put in a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And now you have this cool thing that's like a bragging right.
Yeah.
So we'll have like and like with Mythren, it's like some will be really easy to get, but some will be like a lot more difficult. So it allows you to customize your Mythren in like a small way.
It's like this is kind of a funny comparison, but it's like camos from Call of Duty, right? You get, you get X amount of headshots, you get the red one. You get X amount of you get all of them. You get the gold.
Weird comparison, but yeah, like my brain started thinking like, yeah, it is kind of just like weapon skins and definitely not the route we'll try to go with.
Loot boxes.
But yeah.
The last question I have here is asked by Barry. He says, will the game be like Persona and have dating capabilities? And then he writes, of course no Mythren on humans, but we all know Barry's trying to go Mythren on humans.
Oh, I can answer that.
Okay.
So, there are currently no implementations for dating human characters and Mythren, but there is a high likelihood that we will add something, but I will promise nothing. Mainly because it's not like on our development budget. It's just something we want to add. So we'll see. But currently, there's no implementation for it.
It's definitely one of those things that would be cool to have. But we're also like, we have a lot of we have at the most ideal version of the game where you have full funding and everything. We have 30 different Mythren species, and all of those have their own storyline, like tiny storyline. Then you have the human packs as well. That's a lot of writing on top of that, and that's separate from the actual story. So it's like it's a lot of writing. So and like if you want to do dating properly, you don't just date them like say, oh yeah, we're dating, and then you never talk to them again or do anything with them. Like Persona has like these micro events that you can do with the person you're dating or people you're dating, and I guess in those games. But yeah, so we would want to give it proper care if we do it.
Okay. So that sort of wraps up all the questions I had for you guys and the community questions. Was there anything else you guys wanted to sort of a note you sort of wanted to end on, or anything to that effect?
Outside of, I would say follow our Kickstarter page, but I guess take a look at our Kickstarter page because that'll be up by now.
Yes.
By the time you're hearing my voice, give a look at our Kickstarter page, our cool Kickstarter trailer we've been working really hard on. And if you want to support us, that would be awesome.
Yeah. My message would have been basically the same exact energy. I love your support on Kickstarter. We're working really hard on the game, and we hope you all are excited for it as we are.
Awesome. Anything? You guys took all the took all the good stuff. Drake's just sitting here like, oh man.
I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
It's all good.
All right. Well, you guys heard it. Definitely check out their Kickstarter page, their YouTube channel, Small Leaf Studios. I believe was Small Leaf Studios, right?
Yes, Small Leaf
Yes.
Studios.
I had to make sure. Small Leaf Studios. So that's a YouTube channel. They got the Twitter page. Everything will be linked in the description. And yeah, we'll see you guys again. Bye.